I think it helped to, practice with varying degrees of stability of discs and, not just a lot of people feel like the best way to practice, and you hear it time and time again, is like, get 10 of the same disc and practice over and over and do that. But my philosophy is pretty much the opposite of most people, where I feel like every putt is different, just like riding, every wave is different. Your stance is never going to be the same. The wind's never going to be the same. There's just thousands of variables that are changing all the time. So the owner of the town wanted to do something for me, and since the disc golf tournament was in town, he arranged to have me dropped off at the tournament in a helicopter. I've been saying it for about 2 years now. I don't think we should be allowed to jump putt in Circle 2. What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. Matt Bell here with the Chain Clankers podcast.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Chain Clankers podcast. We have a really good episode today. We get into some sweet topics. We got to talk with Matt Bell. And Quentin, tell us what we talked about today.
Yeah, today is going to be the episode for you if you want to get better at putting. I know we've said that a couple of times, but I keep asking over on Instagram, what do you guys want to get better at? What do you feel is suffering in your game right now? And consistently, we're hearing a lot of putting. So definitely wanted to have another putting episode out there. And I think this is a putting episode unlike any of the other ones that we've done before. You're going to hear some tips on this episode that I've never even thought of before, and they're really good. And just a little sneak peek there is, if you compare your putting to studying for a test and you're trying to cram before a tournament, just like you're trying to cram before an exam, might not work out well for you. So we have some methods and some new things you can try out that will improve your putting and allow you to make more of those putts in tournaments, league nights, pressure situations, whatever it is, as well as we do talk a little bit about mentality. We talk about Matt Bell's journey in disc golf, how he got started, how it's going for him right now, as well as his hot take, which might actually surprise you for it being a putting episode. And you want to make sure you stay to the end. I know. I always say make sure you stay tuned through the end, but you want to listen to the story that comes out in this ace round. This is literally the craziest story that we have had on this podcast. So you want to make sure you listen to that. Hit that subscribe and follow button now if you haven't already. Leave a comment on this episode. Tell us what your thoughts of these putting tips were, maybe the hot take coming up. Super interested to hear from you guys. And without further ado, let's go ahead and let's bring Matt on. All righty, everyone. Let's welcome on Matt Bell. Super excited to have you on the podcast today, man. How is it going up in the Northeast?
Oh, not bad. Not bad. As you can tell, just got my beanie on, living the life aquatic, growing my beard out for the Northeast. So ready for winter.
How long have you been up there
now? Since May of 2019.
Yeah, okay, so quite a bit.
Yeah.
So
this will be my second winter.
Yeah, I guess kind of going with that, because you said originally you're from California, I believe. So was there any kind of culture shock for you going from California all the way up to, New Jersey up there in the frigid cold?
There is a little bit of a culture shock, but just as far as traveling on the road for the last 6 years, I've been experiencing it all, and I've spent plenty of time up here. So I did know what I was getting into before I moved here, having toured the last half of the year in the Northeast.
Yeah. Do you like you say you're kind of getting used to the cold up there. Do you like it though? It's different experience for sure. I feel like some people thrive in the cold weather.
Yeah. I mean, prior to this, I'd only spent one winter up in the Sierras up at Donner Summit, which is up at 7,000 feet. So that was quite the experience. And yeah, living anywhere where it gets cold, below freezing, it's quite the experience, and it takes some getting used to, but definitely like it. It's good for the body, for sure. So
how is the disc golf scene out there?
It's huge, man. People are crazy. They play in all kinds of weather out here. They are not fair weather golfers. They're addicted golfers, and they don't let anything stop them. And the scene is huge. There's courses everywhere. Clubs are really serious, and all kinds of team challenges happening. It seems like every weekend. So plenty of stuff to do.
I know we've talked about a little bit in the past. I don't remember who it was, but it was someone from one of the coasts. But I mean, you being from California, moving out there, do you see a different kind of style in disc golf from the two?
A little bit. There's definitely a hotbed of really good disc golfers up in Northern California, and I feel like that talent level kind of just kept passing down from generation to generation to where you got a bunch of really good disc golfers. And, in the Northeast, there's just a lot of new players. So you don't necessarily have that like small, tight knit group of people that are really, really good. You have a lot of new players and a lot of clubs with amateurs. But the passion for the game, is the same everywhere. So
Yeah, that's pretty exciting. And I mean, this is definitely the podcast for them. If they're not listening to it yet, they better get on the train, because this is the number one podcast for the amateur newer players, being able to improve your game, lower your score, all those kinds of things. And, thankfully we've got you on the show today to be able to help some of those folk do that. We're going to be talking a little bit of putting and mental game here in a little bit, but let's kind of start this show off, Matt. How did you first find disc golf?
I was playing catch with a friend of mine with a frisbee, and he was really impressed with the way I was returning the frisbee to him, and he asked me if I'd ever played disc golf, and I hadn't. So he took me up to De La Viega the next day, which is in Santa Cruz, and that was in August of '09. And I've played pretty much every day since then. So that was the start of it right there.
Were you pretty good? How was your first round?
It wasn't bad. I was able to throw the disc, a little bit over 350, kind of right around there comfortably, and um, semi accurately. I was getting some pars out at De La my first day. Not many, but got a few. And yeah, I improved from there. Just having grown up throwing frisbees my whole life, not competitively, but just with friends, competitive catch, basically. I had a pretty good understanding of how they flew before playing disc golf.
Did you have any ultimate background, or was it just playing catch, kind of understanding how the flight of a disc works?
Yeah, just playing catch, and all my buddies, we were all athletes and we're all really competitive. So even something simple as throwing frisbee turned into a competition quickly. So, you know, just doing that for years kind of cemented that in.
And so what did those first couple of years look like? In '09, you just kept playing for fun, or did you start training, practicing pretty soon after that?
Well, pretty much I would say I was a sole discer, much like I was a sole surfer where I'd just go out and surf all day. I went out and played disc golf all day by myself. Didn't know anything about tournaments for a couple years, and just self-taught and got to where I was shooting pretty close to scratch golf at De La, which is one of the harder courses, in the world if you don't know what you're doing. So I got pretty good before I even found out about tournament scenes, and then once I found out about those, I was in kind of all in right away.
Yeah, definitely. De La is such a interesting course for your first ever course, and really just starting out playing disc golf there. You see it on coverage dang near every single year, and it just looks like an absolute beast and a monster, and just so difficult. So that's really impressive to be able, in a couple years, everything self-taught, being able to get to that scratch disc golf and get some birdies here and there and playing well. So take me through the process of, you're out there every single day. How do you then stumble upon finding out about tournaments and the competitive side of disc golf? And was it an immediate, like, yes, I'm in, I want to do this?
Yeah, it was actually when Pro Worlds was coming around, and I was finding out they were shutting down my course I played at every day for the World Championships. I ended up volunteering and spotting on hole 12 at De La, and got to see pretty much everybody come through that year and play. And so I was pretty much, after that, I was like, all right, how do I start competing? And got my PDGA number shortly after that and started playing tournaments.
What was the volunteering? What was the experience like seeing professionals? You played by yourselves. Now you're seeing like the best in the world. What was that like?
Well, the hole I was spotting on, hole 12, most of the pros were throwing it out of sight around the corner. So I didn't really get to see too many shots that kind of blew me away because I couldn't really see them finishing too well from start to finish, at least. But what really impressed me was the senior legends when they came around. And I'll definitely remember seeing Stancil Johnson and those guys throw. They couldn't throw it more than 150 feet, really. And they were playing each shot out. And it was pretty competitive with those guys, even though they weren't throwing it very far. And they all made their putts for like the 3 holes I watched them play. Everybody made their putts. And that was kind of the most impressive thing to me that stood out.
Yeah. So finding out about tournaments, and I think you kind of had already touched on this a little bit, kind of came, I feel like a lot of people have this happen to them, get really addicted, wanting to play a whole lot of tournaments. In that time frame of playing in a ton of tournaments, was there ever the moment of, hey, I'm going to go to YouTube and start maybe learning from these people or talking to pros? Was anyone like kind of helping you improve? How were you able to keep a benchmark of your improvement? Was it just based off a finish at the tournaments?
I think it was based off, me realizing what my potential could be kind of early on, even before tournaments. And so once I did find out about the tournament scene, I did watch some coverage for a time period when I played like half a season as an amateur. But then once I kind of started to go pro and win open tournaments and stuff, I kind of focused more on just playing a lot and gaining as much experience as I could on the field in tournaments. And so that was kind of my strategy, was just play every day, play as much as I could, and take it from there.
Were you, in the beginning, were you a pretty well-rounded player, or was there something in your game that kind of gave you an advantage, like distance, or your putting was really good?
I got good at putting pretty early on, so that was definitely something I rode for a long time, and still riding the putting train. So it's definitely carried me throughout my career and helped me get a lot of early wins, make some, make one extra putt per round. And if it's a 3-round tournament, you could end up winning by 3 if you hang in there. So that was kind of what got me a lot of my early wins in the open division.
Yeah. And I mean, we've said it before on this show countless times, especially for for every player, but I feel like the amateur players the most, it's really that putting that can separate you from your competition. If you're able to knock down that 25, 30 footer consistently and hit a couple of putts from circle 2, that just makes you so much more deadly. And you can expand that landing zone circle of being able to score birdies, being able to save pars, those kinds of things, where if, you have to be within side 10, 8 feet to be able to make that putt, that's going to hurt your scoring opportunities. So that's really interesting to hear you say. And were you always a good putter? Like, how much did you have to work on putting to get really good?
It's something I worked on a lot. I definitely put in a lot of hours. And most of the time, it wasn't as constructive as it could be, but that's just kind of the learning process, especially when you're self-teaching. But I went through trial and error and hours and hours of practice to get better at practicing. It was a big thing that helped me get to the next level time and time again, was getting better at how to practice efficiently. And I have to give a lot of credit too to Greg Barsby, because he's who actually took me out on tour in 2015, and we toured for several years together and spent a lot of time working with each other, keeping our putts up, making sure we're getting better, and not, you definitely don't want to get complacent with putting, because you can lose it really quick. So definitely got to stay on it.
Well, we're on the subject of putting, let's talk about that for a little bit. So, I mean, besides practice, obviously practice is going to help people improve. What were some of the things that helped you the most in your putting game?
I think it helped to, practice with um, varying degrees of stability of discs. And, not just a lot of people feel like the best way to practice, and you hear it time and time again, is like, get 10 of the same disc and practice over and over and do that. But my philosophy is pretty much the opposite of most people, where I feel like every putt is different, just like riding every wave is different. Your stance is never going to be the same. The wind's never going to be the same. There's just thousands of variables that are, changing all the time. So, repetition is good to a certain point, but, creativity, I feel like on the putting green is the most important. So just treating every putt uniquely and differently and situationally. And something I do that is practicing with a bunch of different putters and being able to adjust and make little slight adjustments and still be effective. And that translates to the course, I think, a lot more than just trying to do the same thing. And that's the only way you're practicing. Yeah.
So, sorry. So I guess that kind of leads me to the question of I think I'm following you here, where it's better to like move around, try to throw a different shot every single time you putt. Maybe you're only putting one time instead of standing there with a stack of discs and just going at it. So is there any good like practice, like, I don't know, like drills or something that you're doing with that? Like, let's say you've got 5 different putters. Are they just randomly scattered around the basket, or how do you kind of go through that process?
I like to change it up. I don't really feel like I need to stick to any one routine. Because then if I feel like I don't do that routine, maybe it's going to throw my game off. So don't really have a set routine that I feel like I have to stick to. I got really good at putting, in obstructed stances and out of bushes and stuff. But when it comes on to tour, then you're just practicing like wide open 25 footers. Because that's what wins tournaments. That's what's, going to get you far on tour, is just being able to make them basically, like you said, the 25 and 30 footers. But that's not practical for like your average day golfer. They're going to be faced with, a lot more putts from distance than a top player. So, you can practice those wide open 25 footers and repeat that all day, but that might not translate to everybody's game. It doesn't translate to most people. Most people are, keep getting themselves stuck out at 30, 35 feet in awkward situations. And if you get good at those, then, you're the talk of the town at that point.
So, it's good, to be good at putting, and then, practicing, you can get better. But do you ever feel like you struggle with, plateauing and feeling like you're not getting better at putting, or where you become stagnant and maybe the putter doesn't feel as good as you were? And what do you do to kind of give you that either confidence or that advantage back in your putting, if that does happen?
Yeah. I'd say there was a time, after 4 or 5 years of being a good putter, where, I got good by making it as complicated as I could and trying to dissect everything. And that got me really good. But then, sometimes that wasn't working. And I actually found myself going back to a point where I was able to completely simplify putting to where it's not complicated, and, go back to kind of the core principles of why I structured my putt the way I did. And oftentimes, from your amateur even to some of the top pros that I've helped with their putting, when things are going wrong, you're oftentimes thinking that you're not doing enough and you need to do more because it's not working, when in fact the opposite is the case most of the time, to where you're doing too much and you need to back off and go back to the basics. And so anytime I miss a putt, next time I'm up there, it is absolute basics and then starting over.
And when you're
Um,
saying basics and like the way that you physically putt, what do you mean by that?
well, I have a few things that I go back to, and basically it's the way I naturally hold a disc in my hand without thinking about it. My preferred putting angle. It's not something that's not going to be natural for me. And sometimes I will change that up in a tournament, but then if it's not working, I can go back to where, okay, this is naturally how I hold it, so I don't even have to think about that. Depending on how far away I am, I think about the spin rotation, how many rotations are coming out of the hand. I have little rules for distances as far as how big the pocket is, which is like the power pocket for the putt. I may only allow myself a couple inches one way or another from certain distances. And I don't want to get into too fine a detail about it, but I basically have some principles that I can fall back on that are my basics for when things aren't going right. And, that works for me. It's worked for people that I've taught it to. It's something I teach in my lessons and clinics I've been doing for the last couple of years, and it's changed
Yeah,
people's lives for
yeah,
sure.
I feel like that makes a lot of sense, and it's going to be, there's no point in us really asking you specifically what yours are, because I feel like they're going to be different for every single person. Um,
I agree. Yep.
and I feel like it's something that, when you're in a tournament or you're in a position where you're under stress, or maybe you're not having a good round, or you feel like your putting is off, these basics are what someone can just calm down, think about, like when they're doing it during their practice round or whatever, and basically focus on that to try to step away from whatever pressure situation they're in, or like you're saying, just going back to the basics. That way there's less going on in the head, and the only thing you're thinking about are the things that should put the putter in the basket.
Exactly, Horatio, you're onto it. And the best advice I could give for putting is when you're practicing, practice without the basket and practice controlling that putter all the way to the ground for a full flight. Because most people, when they're practicing, and I did it for years, you're target orientated and you might be a little tense and giving it little half goes instead of doing a full putt, just like a full throw. And it's really hard to do when you're target orientated. You take that basket away and you naturally send that putter through the air 10, 25, 30 feet. It doesn't have to be very far, and just get that natural motion of what you're naturally going to do to get that putter through space and time. And then apply that to the target, because what you're naturally going to do isn't going to break down in a pressure situation. If you're trying to emulate something or somebody, that's going to break down a lot quicker in a pressure situation than what you naturally would do. So you don't even have to think about it.
I think that's really good advice. I've never even thought about that before, but that does make a lot of sense. If you're just trying to control the flight of the disc, and if you're just putting without a target, you're able to just naturally putt, and it takes away that tenseness, it takes away that pressure. That is such a good tip. Wow, that really
Absolutely.
spoke to me, man. That was awesome. So I
You'll
guess
make
that
the
kind of
easiest 25 footer of your life after doing that. I guarantee it.
leads me to, if that's such a good thing, is that something that I should maybe start before my round or before my practice putting? Should I just start by doing, I don't know, 10, 15, just, 5 from each distance of just practicing my regular form of putting? Or is that just kind of something you do when you're not feeling good with your
That's all I've been
putter?
doing for the last few. No, that's all I've been doing for the last few years. I rarely practice on a basket anymore. I'll only do it a few times. I have my set distances that I do it at, and I'll just do that a few times. If it's windy, I'll do it a few times in each wind direction. If it's not windy, I'll only just do it a few times, and then that's it. I might take one or two putts on the basket from close, but I really like to let my first couple of putts of the round kind of build into how my putting is gonna go. And that way I'm not letting my practice putting affect my round, because I mean, how many times you make all your practice putts and then don't make any in the round? So I've eliminated that out to where, it's just less going on, less thoughts in the head. If it feels good, you don't need to change it. It's like trying to cram before an exam. If you're not ready, you're not ready, So if you're feeling good and confident, stick with that. Don't change it, and carry that confidence into the round.
Cool. I love it. I think that's, unless you got more, I think that's pretty good on putting. I want to get moving here. Tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about those first couple years on tour with Barbsy. What was that like? And kind of tell us a little bit about what it compares to maybe nowadays. But
Barsby's been traveling on tour more than most people on tour. He's been doing it since he was like 14 or 15 years old, traveling the country with people. So um, he knew a lot of people in every town, so that was always nice. We were always taken care of, and didn't have to worry about that. And he's definitely a champion of the people, for the people, and everywhere we went, he made it a point that we're gonna usually be there first and usually leaving last, and hanging out with whoever was there, the locals, the local club, getting to know the guys and really making connections with people, because that was just as important to him as winning his world championship, was making those real connections with people and having as full of an experience you can, for one weekend in a town, and really make the most of it. And I can't thank him enough for that experience. And I've tried to carry that on through my touring these last few years by myself. And we're all still there hanging out at every tournament and get to see each other every weekend, all the guys. So it's really changed in that there's just more people on tour, and we're having more fun. So
I hate to be the one who asks this question, but what was it that made you guys stop touring? Because you said that you tour by yourself now, right?
yeah.
Was it just a, hey, we're gonna go our own separate ways, or what happened there?
And there was no falling out or anything. It was
That's
just
good.
just us having to find our own way, and can't tour together forever.
yeah, I feel like a lot of players end up kind of doing their own tour schedule based on kind of what they like or the season for different
Yeah.
reasons or whatnot.
Yeah, we had to grow up eventually. We both got girlfriends now, and he's got a house, so the
Yeah.
fun's over.
Adulting now. That's what it sounds like. And
Yeah.
so what's touring like now? So is it you and your girlfriend, or just you kind of on tour? Does she go out there with you?
She made it to most of the East Coast tournaments last year, towards the end, and then every few weeks she'd fly out and spend a weekend with me, or I'd fly home for the weekend when I had a week off. So we got to see each other quite a bit, and it worked out just fine.
That's really good. I can only imagine that kind of gives you a little bit of extra motivation out there on the course, being able to see your girlfriend. And do you ever find yourself playing better on those weekends that she's there watching?
Well, the first 2 weekends we hung out, I won back-to-back A tiers, so felt like that was a good start. And yeah, I did. I play good. I don't play bad with my girlfriend around, so that's good. She's a really good putter, so when she's
Nice.
around, I gotta be on point and making my putts. So she does help me focus and stay calm out there.
And so when you go on tour, are you out on a van? Are you doing that?
Um, I've done a little bit of everything over the years: trains, planes, and automobiles, RVs, and fifth wheels. Um, the last couple of years, I've just been doing it out of a Volkswagen Passat wagon.
Nice.
So yeah, running
That's
around.
that's something that's kind of interesting. I've always wondered, by default, a lot of disc golfers that go on tour, like you're kind of forced to become a van lifer, whether you kind of like it or not. And I feel like most of them end up enjoying it, but I feel like there's got to be some that don't care for the van life, but kind of have to do it.
It's possible. You know, I'm sure we'd all like to be in A-class RVs, but
Yeah.
the van life is perfect for now and perfect for what we do. So, most like you said, most people enjoy it. So
Yeah.
it's not a bad way to travel.
Yeah, that's good. And you can take the van probably a little bit easier to wherever you want to go instead of that massive RV. I can imagine it's a little bit harder to maneuver that thing around every now and then.
Oh, for sure.
So moving forward here, been in the game for quite a while now. What are kind of your goals for disc golf moving forward? What more do you want to accomplish in the sport?
I feel like I've been biding my time a little bit, gaining experience, and I'm looking forward to, um, you know, using my. I am a veteran in the game now, so I got to use those wits and continue to get better. If you just look solely at the numbers, um, I've continued to get better each season and more consistent, and I plan on continuing that trend for several years.
What are you
So,
looking forward to the most this next season?
it'd be nice to get another big win. Definitely, that's a focus for me. I wouldn't be out there if I didn't think I had a chance to win, and so that's pretty much what I focus on. And I'm going to put in maximum effort this year and see how it goes.
Nice. And I think we were kind of talking about it a little bit before we started recording. You're moving away from DGA into OTP discs. I imagine that kind of opens you up to being able to use a lot more discs. Is there anything exciting, challenging? How are you feeling about that process?
Well, they're not going to be like my main title sponsor. They do support me and they will continue to be on board with me moving forward. But I still have some other sponsorship deals that I'm tightening up and should be able to announce hopefully in the next couple of weeks.
Ooh, we can't wait to hear it.
So,
We wanna know because we're big fans of you. We want to support you in whatever way that we can. So
right.
definitely looking forward to hearing that and can't wait to find out about that deal. But I think it's time that we kind of move forward here a little bit. We don't want to take up your whole night. So let's get to the disc golf hot take segment. So Matt, what is your disc golf hot take?
Oh boy, I have a few, but I don't know if I want to put them out there. Uh, if I had to pick one though, I've been saying it for about 2 years now. I don't think we should be allowed to jump putt in circle two. There we go. Comment section's blowing up.
Yeah,
I said,
as I'm blown up over here. When I read that, I was like, oh gosh, as somebody who is, I won't say mastered, but is definitely a big fan of the old step putt in circle two. I was like, I got to hear the reasoning behind this one.
jump putting is just too easy for the top guys. And also with, all sorts of video coverage available now, it's fairly obvious that flip faults do happen and they're missed oftentimes because you can't tell in real time. It's really hard to make the right call. I hate to see it happen, but it does happen. And I think the best solution is we have the circle two very well established. So just move it back to where you can't jump inside circle two, and it will add a challenge to the game. It won't be as easy. So I think that's a good thing,
So, I mean,
as well as being
technically,
more fair for everyone.
would we just get rid of circle one? There would be no more circle one. Circle two would just become circle one, I guess.
I think
And
you could
then,
keep it there for the stats. I think the stats are really cool, and I don't think that needs to change.
yeah, because I definitely agree with, the top pros, like they just eat up circle one and especially circle two, like step putts and jump putts. They just eat those thing up. It's like if they were in circle one and it's like, what's even the point?
Right. I mean, it's almost easier now outside circle one than at edge of circle one.
Yeah. And I mean, I've been saying it on this show for quite a while. I'd rather take a 35 footer over a 30 footer any day of the week because I just feel more confident at 35 because I can do the step putt instead of just having to
Right.
stand there. So,
And then if you can't, it's going to make the game a lot harder, and you'll see who the real better putters are at that point, I think.
Yeah, I like it. I definitely personally would hate that for me because I would struggle. But also the point of things like this is to, explore those new ideas, open your mind up. And if that went away, well, cool. Then you just have something else to go out and work on. And you have to be able to get stronger in order to make those putts from further out. So that was a pretty good
heard it here
take.
first. If the PDGA gets it together, they will change it. And they might as well do it now because disc golf is blowing up.
True. Keyword if in that sentence. Keyword if the PDGA can get it together. Hopefully, I think we're moving in the right direction, but we will definitely see.
I think we are. I think it sounds like it. So
yeah. All right, guys, let's get into the ace round. These are the same 5 questions that we ask all of our guests and just like to pick their brains, see kind of what their thoughts are. Maybe you can take something away from this and maybe we'll even hear a fun story along the way. So Horatio, why don't you start us off with the first question?
Yep. So you're taking a buddy out, you play their first round with them and they want to buy their first set of discs, putter, fairway, or mid and driver. What 3 discs would you recommend them buy?
Ooh, I would have to say going with probably the flippiest discs they could find available because it's going to teach you how to throw a full flight right away. We got too many victims of modern stability out here in the game. Something flippy and you learn how to do that, then you can learn how to really throw a disc. But now, discs are so overstable, you don't need to do that anymore until you need to. And then if you don't have it, that's what's missing out of most people's game today. So I think doing that first is going to be the most important thing. It's like, turning the sensitivity up on a video game controller. You turn that sensitivity all the way up, it's going to be difficult. But then once you stable up, you're going to have a much better understanding of the game and it's going to be easier for you.
I think that's a really good shout. I've never heard that analogy before, but that makes sense. I like that one. So the second question we have for you is, what is the favorite course you have played and one course you would love to play in the future?
Well, my favorite course that I've played is up in Tony's Mountain. It's in Nevada County, up in Gold Country of Northern California, and think Northwood Black with like extreme elevation change.
Oh, wow.
And that's Tony's Mountain. It's the toughest course in the world. Only 2 people have ever shot under par there.
I was going to say, sounds awful.
Yeah, it's a hike. It's an all-day ordeal up there on the mountains. 27 holes. Nico and I are the only 2 people who have shot under par in tournament there. And then the course I want to play the most probably be Yarva, get across the pond, which I plan on doing this next season. And so maybe I'll be able to sneak in around to Yarva while I'm out there.
Yeah, I'm hyped for this coming up season for that reason, to see some action, over in Europe and stuff, and more mixed tournaments, I guess, players from a little bit more variety. Hopefully that'll be fun.
Yeah,
All right.
I think we're going to get a lot of U.S. golfers out there this next season, so that'll be awesome.
All right, next one we got here is one tip you would give to yourself who just started playing disc golf.
One tip I give myself: wear more sunscreen and drink water. But sunscreen's the most important thing. You've been hearing it your whole life. Wear your sunscreen. Just protect yourself from the elements too. And ticks and Lyme disease is a big thing in our sport. So make sure you're always doing a tick check. Wear the proper clothing to avoid those.
Yeah, big facts on that tick check. I think we've been playing for 2.5-ish years, Horatio. I lose count. It hasn't even been that long. And I think for me, I had not had a single tick until like last summer. And my buddy, who had probably only played with me 1 or 2 times, and I kind of got him to come out with me pretty consistently, he found a tick on him like 4 or 5 times in a row. And after that, like my legs, I just felt like something was crawling on my legs the whole time. And then I finally found a couple on myself. And ever since then, I was like, I cannot wait for the fall to come back let it get a little cool. These things go away. But that's a very good shout. That's something that I don't think a lot of people think about, but it ruined the rest of my round. That's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
And just be mindful too when you're playing shots out of the bushes or going to reach in and pick up a disc. I know several people that have been bitten by venomous snakes in the last couple seasons, and as we get more people out there playing, that's probably going to happen more often. So just definitely be aware of your surroundings out there. It's not always a friendly environment. So
Yeah, that is true. We are quite literally in the wild, pretty much, especially in
yes.
those wooded courses. You are quite literally in the middle of the woods. And I think it's kind of, you're like, oh, I'm playing disc golf. Everything's fine. And then you look around. I know there's one course here in town. You look around, just massive spider webs everywhere. And if I don't care about that disc and it's in there, it is the spider's disc at that point.
Oh yeah.
All right, we'll keep moving here. So our fourth question we got for you: what is your favorite memory playing disc golf?
Man, it'd be hard to pick one. I've been traveling all over and had some pretty good adventures, but definitely one that sticks out amongst the majority would be back in 2019. I want to say it was right after Masters Cup. A bunch of us headed up to a very rural part of Northern California. This is in the Salmon River, Russian wilderness area, and very remote. Like the closest store is over 40 minutes away, and you're in a canyon, pretty isolated from the world, basically. And I was out there a couple days prior to the event, so I was the only one in town. And town consists of like a bar and a campground and a disc golf course. There's a few families out there, so I'm hanging in the bar with the owner of the town and one of his buddies, a local, and someone comes in and says there's a bunch of people trapped on the river down south, because we just had there was a huge winter in 2018, 2019, a huge winter. So there was a lot of snowpack. This was in May, early May. So that snow was melting. The river was very swollen. And there was about 8 Boston college students who went on a 10-day backpacking trip. And 7 of them were green. It was their first time backpacking. Only one of them had done it before, but not in that area. They ended up getting off course because of snowpack and got stuck on the river for a full day and a half. One of them actually swam across the river and barely made it because the water's freezing and is moving really fast. So he went and got help. Nobody could help him. There's no swiftwater rescue. The fire department's not trained for that. The sheriff's department's not trained for that. Short of getting a helicopter with a swiftwater rescue team from, Humboldt or Shasta, was probably days away from happening if they wanted to organize that. So I was pretty much their best shot. I just bought an inflatable kayak and volunteered myself to go down there. And I grew up on rivers. I'm pretty experienced with them. Never done anything like that before, but with my knowledge, having grown up on a river and my surfing background, I was able to ferry everyone across and, get upriver as far as I can, shoot down to them, shoot them across. Thankfully, nothing went wrong, but it was definitely a situation where if one thing goes wrong, it could have been a really bad day. So thankfully, nothing went wrong. I was able to ferry them across one at a time. Even went back for all their packs, which I had to do one at a time. They had 75-pound packs with boots and crampons on there, so I had to do those one at a time. And how this is disc golf related was when I got back into town, I learned the other guy in the bar was a swiftwater rescue guy for almost 20 years. And he wasn't going to go down there because he knew how dangerous it was. And
yeah,
so he was telling the owner of the town, where I did it. He knew exactly where I did it at. And he was thoroughly impressed, and he wasn't about to do it himself. And that's what he did for a living. So that just tells you how dangerous the situation was. So the owner of the town wanted to do something for me, and since the disc golf tournament was in town, he he arranged to have me dropped off at the tournament in a helicopter. So I got picked up Friday morning or Saturday morning, like 6:30, went for a little helicopter ride, and then he dropped me off at my starting hole on hole 15, I want to say it was, while everyone's out waiting for the tournament to start. Everyone walked out, just shotgun start. They're all standing around and no one's blowing the horn, and so they're wondering what's going on. And then all of a sudden we come in on the chopper, and he has me throw some discs out of there to warm up, and then drops me off at my starting hole. And man, it doesn't get better than that.
Yeah, no, that's really, really cool. I mean, not just the fact that, you know, saved all those kids, but just that experience. I mean, I don't know who I would have expected coming off the chopper, but that'd be really sweet.
Yeah.
And so, like, is the town named after you? I feel like after that, they have to like name the town after you, or the bar at least.
I'm actually also the unofficial marshal in the town, because a couple years prior, we had to hold a fugitive at gunpoint that was in the town, but that's a different story.
So, I mean, I've got so many different emotions from that story. A, very impressive. B, I couldn't have done it. C, went back for the gear. That's even more impressive. You said, I got all of you, now watch me go get your stuff for you. Yeah, that is so crazy. And then I just hope you had a good round, because I would have been personally embarrassed if I got dropped off by a helicopter and then just played like trash.
No, I had a good battle with Conrad that weekend. I committed to putting with the glow fly all weekend, and was able to stay close to him while he was shooting fire, and made a little battle for him here and there.
Nice. Yeah, that is such a crazy story. I'm glad you were able to save those folk, and we're gonna have you on another time so that way we are able to hear this fugitive story, because after that one I'm ready for the next one.
Right? Yeah, we can do that.
All right. I think last question we got here for you before we get you out of here is, what is the biggest mistake you see new players make?
You know, I'd hate to crash on anybody's parade, so I don't really want to call out anything in particular, but I just think, you know, mistakes are a part of the game, as you know they are in life. You know, they're a learning experience. So I think as long as you're learning from the mistakes you made, you know, can you call it a mistake at that point? It's, you know, that's how you learn and get better. And you know, this game emulates life in a lot of ways, and one of the things is making mistakes, and you just gotta figure out ways to do things better and try and avoid them.
Yeah, and I think personally the number one way to avoid those mistakes is make sure you hit that subscribe button right now so you never miss another episode, and you can hear other great interviews like this one. We've got tons of other ones, so definitely make sure you do that. You don't want to miss them. Let us make the mistakes for you. Hear other people's mistakes. Don't be the one who has to make the mistakes. Matt, this was such a fun show. Love talking to you, learning from you. Where can the people connect with you on social media?
You can check me out on Instagram, Matt Bell City. Matt Bell City being anywhere outside of Circle 1, you know, that's where I'm at. You can find me out there. And then, you know, check out my website, Matt Bell Disc Golf, as well as on Facebook. And, you know, from my future sponsors, you'll be able to find out stuff from them too.
Cool, man. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. We're super excited to hear, you know, what's coming up for you this next season. And we wish you nothing but the best of luck, and hopefully get some more wins this upcoming season.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Horatio, Quentin. It's great to meet you guys, and we'll have to do it again.
Thank you for listening to the Chain Clankers podcast. Make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Chain Clankers, and hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening to us from so you never miss another episode.